It's time to start the war on the. That's it. The war on the word the. The AP Stylebook, or should I say, people who work at AP Stylebook, a resource that guides American journalists on how to style their writing, frequently makes changes and updates to its writing style guide. Their new recommendation is the extinguishment of the labels, which the AP says, damn, I did it again, not the AP, which AP says includes phrases like the poor, the mentally ill, and the French. Quote, we recommend avoiding general and often dehumanizing the labels, such as the poor, the mentally ill, the French, the disabled, the college educated. The writing oracle said in a tweet Thursday, instead, use wording such as people with mental illnesses and use these descriptions only when clearly relevant. The internet, I'm sorry, internet is hammering them, of course. I feel so humanized after seeing AP Stylebook taking a stand against the T word, the one user tweeted in response to the AP Stylebook's update. The mocking was also made perfectly by Owen Sebring on Twitter with this tweet. Instead of the Simpsons, people with Simpsonness. And the conservative Young America's Foundation actually tweeted something funny for once with this one. The AP has two scared children crying against the wall, and the word the being the scary, adorable bunny rabbit, just chilling there on the floor. The latest recommendation follows several recent updates to the AP Stylebook that greatly impact how journalists cover the news, particularly politically charged topics. One recent change included the addition of a chapter on inclusive storytelling, which the AP claimed was essential to accurate storytelling. The new chapter included instruction on proper use of the term critical race theory, saying the term needed to be explained when used in a sentence. It also said the term's widely known acronym CRT should not be used on later references. Another change they recommended recently is that when journalists write black to refer to black people, that the B should be capitalized. But when writing white, the W should not be capitalized when referring to white people. More of their recent advice includes the following. New guidance on dead naming was also included in the chapter update. Dead naming is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as calling a transgender person, quote, by their birth name when they have changed their name as part of their gender transition, close quote. Quote, the AP Stylebook is ridiculous and entirely captured by Marxist ideologues, close quote, says conservative political commentator Robbie Starbuck on Thursday. I recommend not listening to a darn thing they ever say or recommend, he says. Language is changing. Things are being updated. Not the language, just language in general. I'm torn on this. I do see the point to some degree because I have a joke in my stand-up act where I say that maybe the most racist word in the English language is the word the, because there's nothing inherently racist about somebody saying Mexicans or blacks, but when somebody says the Mexicans or the blacks or the Jews, it's a giant problem. And so I do get how that word can be grouping people in an insensitive way. At the same time, relax. It should be context dependent, in my opinion. Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, so we're going to be annoyingly rational about this, but first we're going to make fun of it. First of all, I regret to inform you guys we are no longer TYT, we're just YT, because we found out that we were being wildly dehumanizing to younger Turkish people. And so, by the way, that would literally be in the AP style books. It refers to Turks like French, etc. And so the should be taken out of the Young Turks. Are we gonna do that? No, we are not. Okay, so that goes to Ben's point. But look, guys, there's a reason why they're doing it, and the kernel of the idea is not at all crazy. But for God's sake, AP, doesn't it depend? I have never heard anyone say the French in a malicious way, right? Like, oh, the French. I mean, what is that?
French sometimes, I don't know. The French I've probably made fun of.
Yeah.
Even my first special, I did make fun of, it's the French. You know what I mean? They're a little aggressive, but not. I don't know about all contexts.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Look, one of the examples they gave was the college educated. Really? That dehumanizes the college educated? I'm sorry, people of college education. No, we're not doing that.
You would have to put the people in there, because if you just say college educated, that's like it describes something, So the would be like the hardest word to remove from your vocabulary, like just as difficult as removing it or a or like, So I mean, I guess like if you work for the AP or you write for them in some type of way, I guess you could enforce it there. But again, this is like the most difficult word that you could possibly try to remove from your vocabulary.
But like, then on the flip, remember when people criticized Donald Trump rightfully for saying we love the poorly educated, because using it does make people seem like this group that's separate of the whole of people in general. Whereas if you had said, listen, we love people who are poorly educated, that seems a little bit less harsh.
Well, yeah. I guess there are some words, if you say it at a certain pitch, it's sexy. And if you say it at another pitch, it's offensive. You know what I mean? So like there's pitch in language too, not necessarily just the word. This is a complicated puzzle right here that we got.
Yeah. Well, look, so here, I can give you examples. Now I'll take the French out, I'll put it in another nationality. The Norwegians.
Okay. That one's fine.
No one thinks that's offensive, right? But if you do the Jews, that sentence never ends well. Okay, it's never ended well in human history, right? So you can see why sometimes you shouldn't use the. Like, I know some old school folks do it and they don't mean harm by it, but that's really old school. 8 out of 10 times when somebody says the blacks, that sentence is not gonna end well either, right? And so there are places where you shouldn't use the in that kind of way. But saying blanket, don't use the when you're referring to any people because it dehumanizes them, including college educated people. No, you've gone too far and then you look ridiculous. But by the way, when you say things that are reasonable, it unfortunately creates a boy who cried wolf situation, because I think they should explain what critical race theory is every time they mention it. Because number one, it's a graduate level class. Almost no one knew what it was in the first place. Number two, they've made it seem like critical race theory, the right wing has, is when you teach white kids that they should hate themselves. That's not critical race theory at all. So it actually behooves them as reporters to explain what it is. So they have some good rules in there, but when you put a rule this broad against the word the, you look ridiculous and then lose credibility on the things that you're actually right about.
Yeah, I think that's true. Plus, it makes sense to not call it CRT because a lot of the poorly educated will read that and be like, what do football head injuries have to do with this story? They're gonna be very confused. That's CTE, it's not CRT, it's similar. Point being, the AP does seem to be, in my estimation, far too woke lately. It's nice to be sensitive to people, but you can't be changing language recommendations this quickly to appease every group. I don't think it makes sense, because yes, you want to be sensitive to transgender people and not dead name them maliciously, but sometimes you certainly for context are gonna have to say, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, is that not allowed? Or when Demi Lovato announces that she is now using they, them, and all press outlets start saying they in stories, but then I had the strong sense that she would be going right back to she very soon, and then she did. They have to update based on individual people's opinions. I also think it doesn't make sense what they advised when it came to capitalizing the B in black, but not the W in white. There has to be one way or the other, in my estimation. How can you separate people further if the point's supposed to be equality, to say one race gets a capital letter and one doesn't? Not that capital letters are all that important, but if you're gonna make rules about it, it seems strangely divisive.
Yeah, it seems like they kind of just threw everything together and didn't really have like a full plan. Because like it would be different. It's like, don't say the Jews or the blacks in this specific context. But this actually to me seems pretty lazy. Like they had a huge idea but didn't really think it out that well. I mean, look how people are responding to it. They clearly didn't think about this very well.
Well, that's what the people tend to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'll tell you, the person who's gonna hate this rule the most is my dad. Especially when he first came over as an immigrant, but it still sometimes slips through. He didn't, since there is no "the" in the Turkish language, he was like, he didn't know when to put the "the" in, right? So he was like, the Cenk is doing the show with the Ben and the Jackson. I mean, boy, he is gonna be in a world of trouble with the AP.
That's what happens when you deal with the elderly. It just happens.
AP's gonna ban you, Ben. That's the Ben for you.
That won't break precedent for them at all.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.